Hey everyone! Today we will be going over needle decompression for tension pneumothorax. So a tension pneumothorax is where the lung collapses and pressure builds up between the lung and the thoracic wall. So there's a space, it's called the pleural space. Pressure is going to build up there. So the lung gets compressed and then eventually it starts getting forced over, which ends up deflating the lung more. Eventually it will kill the person. So there's a couple ways it could happen. Penetrative trauma and blunt force trauma. So for penetrative trauma, it could be like a gunshot wound, a stabbing, and blunt force trauma could be getting hit in the chest like by a car, getting in a wreck, that type of stuff. Okay, so there's a couple signs. One, they'll have absent lung signs. The chest will be really tight. It won't feel like a normal chest. It will feel like very pressurized. The trachea will be moved over to one side instead of being in the middle where it's supposed to be. There will also be abnormal chest movement. It could also just be chest trauma or suspected chest trauma. They could also be in respiratory distress. Their oxygen saturation could be less than 90% when you check their pulse ox. And then they may also be in shock or cardiac arrest. Okay, so there's two sites. Well, there's actually three sites. Okay, so there's three sites. So the first is the anterior, which is just the front of the body, in between the ribs, side of the nipple, away from the middle. Okay, so in medical terms, it's the anterior site. Okay, so the first site is the anterior site. Okay. Second intercostal space, just right above the third rib. Mid-clavicular line, and it's going to be lateral, so away from the nipple, so about right there is perfect. Okay, so you want to palpate, identify the site. So I've identified the site, remove the needle. Okay. So you would clean it, right? You want to hold it perpendicular to the chest, just right above the third rib. And you want to bury the needle down to the hub. Okay, so you want to wait for 5 to 10 seconds. So 5 to 10 seconds is up. You want to remove the needle and leave the catheter in spate. Put this somewhere safe. So at this point, you would want to look for improvement. If there is improvement, then you want to just continue to monitor until paramedics get there, advanced personnel get there that can take the patient over for you. If there is no improvement, then you want to go ahead and attempt another needle decompression using the two other sites. Okay, so the two other sites are the mid-axillary line, okay, so it's this way, third and fourth intercostal space, so this is the second, third, fourth, and it's going to be just right underneath this arm, okay. In most cases, they tell you to go down to the fourth, so this mannequin is not entirely accurate. So just be right underneath the armpit, so you could do a needle decompression there. Then there's also the anterior axillary line at the fifth end intercostal space. So those are the two different other sites that you can use to try and attempt to get a good needle decompression. So there are a couple of risks. So you might puncture a heart. You might also puncture an artery and cause a hemothorax. You might puncture veins or nerves and cause nerve damage. And so for the other two sites, the steps are basically the same. So you should consider doing another needle decompression if respiratory distress has not improved. There was no increase in oxygen saturation, no return of consciousness or a radial pulse. So those signs may indicate that you may have failed on your first attempt. Okay, so pretend the first needle decompression did not work. The needle hub is still there on the site. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try one of the other sites. So I'm going to go to the clavicle and I'm going to find the first intercostal space, the second, the third, fourth, go down, fifth, and I'm going to be at the anterior axillary line. Just lateral to the nipple. So basically what that's saying is I'm not going to be at the mid axillary line. I'm going to be at the front of the body, more at the front, to the right of the nipple, because lateral means away from the middle. Okay, so this is about the right spot right here. Because of the mannequin is made the way it is, I won't be able to enter in that site. But I enter in the site, go all the way to the hub, wait 5 seconds, monitor the patient. There is improvement. And because there's improvement, I'm going to consider that the needle decompression is successful. So in this case, the respiratory distress would improve, the hissing sound, I heard it, oxygen saturation would increase to 90% or greater. There's also a return of consciousness and a radial pulse. And so I would consider it successful. Anyways, guys, that's just a quick run through on needle decompression. Just a reminder, this is not something that you should just be running around doing to random people without training. So this is just for informational and educational purposes only. So if you are wanting to do this, go get training, get certified, all of that stuff. Just because there are risks that go with this procedure, and hopefully this video is informational and educational for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again. Bye.